On the freezing morning of November 15th, 1315, Duke Leopold of Austria rode at the head of 2,000 armored knights along the shores of Lake Egery, deep in the Swiss Alps. Behind him marched 6,000 infantry soldiers stretched over 2 kilometers along a narrow mountain road, trapped between steep rocky cliffs on one side and treacherous swamps and freezing water on the other. Leopold was confident. He was smiling. In just a few hours, he believed, he would crush a group of rebellious peasants who had dared to challenge Habsburg power. What he did not realize was that he was marching straight into a slaughterhouse. Hidden in the forests above, 1,500 Swiss peasants watched in complete silence. They gripped rust-stained halberds with frozen hands. They wore no shining armor. They rode no war horses. But they possessed something the Austrian knights would never understand: the fury of free men, men who would rather die than live as serfs. In the next 2 hours, these quiet mountains would turn into a hell of blood and steel. More than 1,500 Austrian knights and soldiers would die, crushed, drowned, torn apart. Some survivors would leap into the icy lake, choosing death by drowning over the terror of Swiss weapons. This is the story of the Battle of Morgarten, the day peasants destroyed medieval cavalry and changed the history of warfare forever. To understand Morgarten, we must first understand the House of Habsburg, the most ambitious and ruthless dynasty in medieval Europe. By the late 19th century, the Habsburgs controlled Austria, Styria, and vast territories across southern Germany. But it wasn't enough. Their eyes were fixed on the St. Gotthard Pass, the shortest and most profitable route through the Alps to wealthy northern Italy. 3 small mountain cantons blocked the way: Uri, Schwyz, and Unterwalden. These valleys were home to peasants and herdsmen, but not ordinary peasants. They possessed something rare in feudal Europe: imperial letters of freedom. In 1291, they swore a sacred oath of mutual defense, the first step towards what would one day become Switzerland. To the Habsburgs, this was intolerable. In 1314, tensions exploded. Men from Schwyz raided Einsiedel Abbey, seizing cattle and grain. For Duke Leopold, this was the excuse he needed. Now he would finally crush these arrogant rebels. The Swiss were not professional soldiers. They fought with improvised weapons: axes, clubs, war scythes. But their most feared weapon was the halberd. In the hands of a furious peasant, it could pierce armor, crush helmets, rip knights from their saddles. Duke Leopold was only 25 years old, but already an experienced commander. He assembled an overwhelming force. His plan was simple: swift, decisive, crushing. What Leopold did not know was that the Swiss had been warned. At the narrow pass near Morgarten, the Swiss prepared their trap. Steep cliffs on one side, swamps and icy water on the other. Under cover of darkness, they climbed, they waited, they endured. Then the road was blocked. A roar erupted from the mountains. Rocks thundered down. Tree trunks smashed armor and bone. Horses panicked. And then the Swiss charged. What followed was not a battle, it was a butchery. By sunset, over 1,500 Austrians lay dead. Swiss losses, fewer than 120. Across Europe, disbelief spread. Peasants had annihilated knights. The impossible had happened. For the Swiss, Morgarten was more than a victory. It was the birth of a nation. The age of invincible knights was ending. The age of infantry and free men had begun. And it all started on a freezing November morning when farmers chose freedom over fear.